Hi, this is Retro Nerd Girl, and I want to share with you a movie that I just recently watched. Which movie is it? It's Time Masters, 1982. This is one that I have been looking at the posters for years and years and years, and I never got around to watching it. And that seems to be the same sentiment for a lot of these like interesting international movies that I've never seen before, and now I'm getting the opportunity to do so because of you guys. So I am thrilled, thrilled, thrilled. This is Time Masters, released in 1982. It's an independent animated science fiction film directed by Rene Laloux and designed by Mobius. And that was one of the main reasons why I wanted to look at this film. I have already reviewed two of the other movies or have looked at the two other movies that Laloux has done, which is Fantastic Planet and Light Years. And so I wanted to take a look at Time Masters to see if it was any good. And the verdict is, I think it's good. I did not get a chance to see an English version of this, but I was able to get English captioning for my viewing, and it was really cool, a very cool movie, I would say. The movie was based on the 1958 science fiction novel, The Orphan of Purdy by Stephen Wool. And of course, Stephen Wool also wrote Fantastic Planet as well. So that is really cool. I can see his imprint in all of this. So this is great. Okay, so just to give you a little synopsis of the film, this film centers on a boy, PL, who is stranded on Perditi, a desert planet where giant killer hornets, or wasps, sometimes they're called in the translation, live. He awaits rescue by the space pilot Jafar and exiled Prince Matin, his sister Belle, and Jafar's old friend Silbad, who are trying to reach Perditi and save PL before it's too late. Now, yeah, so this is very, very interesting because parts of it start off very, very sad and scary. Oh, and I also wanted to let you guys know that Light Years can also be found under the title Gandhar, which I did a review for that one. Both of these, in fact, I did a review for Fantastic Planet and Light Years. Now, this planet, unfortunately, Perditi is a planet that is a desert planet, but it is also sometimes hostile, sometimes friendly. You just don't know what you're going to get. Now, recently on Max, there's a show called Scavenger's Reign that has a very similar premise. Not entirely, but they're on a planet that is very, very wild and hostile, if you will. Anything can happen at any moment. So this planet also reminds me of that too, because there are so many wonders on it and terrors as well. So you have to be careful on these new planets. You never know what you're going to get. And I love it. I love that someone has thought about these things. Now, we start off with this very interesting machine. It seems as if there's a man by the name of Claude who lives on this planet, and he has a wife, Anne, and they have a son, and his name is PL. Now, the worst things on this planet is the hornets. They just love, or the wasps, and they just love eating human brains. They just suck out the human brains, and that's something we need in order to function. And so, and so that is a huge challenge in the story. And so they're escaping an attack, and unfortunately the dad is extremely wounded. There's a horrible, horrible accident there. The son makes it out, and he is trying very, very desperately to get the a rescue vessel to come see him. So he has a communication device that he's clearly using right there to call the ship initially, but he's going to give that communication device to his son and tells his son that he needs to hide in a special forest in which he will be safe. And uh, that is um, kind of interesting because the son does exactly what he's told, but he's very, very young. At first, I was like, why is this little boy not following directions exactly? And that is because he is really, really tiny. He is not, he's very, very young. I will guess he's like maybe 3 or 4, the most 5. So he's just being a kid. And so this is the forest that he needs to stay in. All of these interesting, wild, unique flowers and fruits and trees are part of this sort of incredible imagination. Of course, Mobius is, you can tell his style anywhere, but it definitely, you can see this has a beautiful color palette. It's vibrant and it's just gorgeous. It is just gorgeous. At the same time, very unusual and feels very alien, feels like you're in another world, and very immersive in that fact. We have the crew that Claude is trying to reach, and I hope I'm going to get all the names correctly. But the 2 blondes are siblings, but they couldn't be more different than the other. The young lady is quite sweet and caring and is a princess, and the prince is called Matin, and he is definitely a piece of work is what he is. What they have on their ship that is very valuable to Matin is treasure. And at some point, to lighten the load, the treasure is actually being tossed into outer space. So he's at odds with everything. He wants to hurry up and get to a place where he can spend or access or use this treasure that he has on board. But he's facing some opposition from Jafar, who is in command of the vessel, and said, "We are going to try to save this young man, this little boy, and see what we can do for a good cause." So that immediately sets up the tension that will be paid off a lot later in the story, and I do love that. I do love that. They use a very similar device to communicate with the young boy, and for a time, yes, he does use it back and forth. They are able to communicate, and they're doing all sorts of things just to keep this boy engaged and make sure he's safe. The more he talks in that machine, the more they know he's alive. And so they go to this wonderful place. This is just incredibly realized, this location here, where they meet up with an older guy, and he's very jolly, and they go to him because he is very knowledgeable about this planet Perditi. And so it's sort of like, oh, cool. They find some guy who is very familiar with the planet. On his planet, they witness a metamorphosis of water lily-like organisms that are, populated. And so 2 of them, Eula and Jad, actually stow away on the ship, and they are looking for adventure, and they actually make friends with the people on the ship. They help and assist as well as they can. They're also psychic, so they can absorb or understand people's psychic energies. They can even communicate psychically as well. So there is a benefit to having these little creatures on board, and they are indeed very cute, very cute. But they don't offer any comedic moments, right? This is a very serious storyline, which I appreciate. I was like, wow, they're playing everything very, very serious. Even the voice acting is very stern, and there is no comedic inflections at all in their voices. It's always pretty straightforward. Yeah, this device really comes in to play very much in the story because they are continuously communicating with the boy to make sure he's okay while also get trying to get to this planet to find him. To find him, they have to do a lot of hard work. So, Matan is really a mischievous character, and he decides, hey, why don't I kill the boy before we get to him, so then we don't have to pick him up. So he gives the boy some really bad instructions to go to a lake, and he could very well die from this experience. He is a very, very, very bad man. And his sister finds him and she stuns him. And it's sort of like now they're defining who's a good person and who's not. So they lock him up because he has violated their trust. And we have this guy Silbad who also talks to the little boy and also plays music for him and stuff like that just to keep him happy. And the young lady sings to the little boy as well, so it's really nice that they're taking care of him. So there's some humanity that they're displaying for these characters, and thusly you become closer and closer to these characters. Like, oh, they're really sweet. Matan, the prince, decides, "Hey, I'm gonna leave the ship and go to this planet. I have nowhere to go. I Let's go to to the planet and see what can happen there. Just let's talk about the landscape here that has been drawn. It's gorgeous, gorgeous, imaginative scapes, imaginative moments all through the story. So yes, this is really if you love that kind of stuff. If you love looking at imaginative scapes for alien worlds, man, this is really good. He arrives at a desolate place on the planet, and it is very, very treacherous here. He immediately gets snatched up, and Jafar decides to follow. And unfortunately, it is in that area is inhabited by some strange creatures, and Jafar is caught in a trap. Eula and Jad are there to help Jafar along the way, so they stow away on board, trying to help him, and I think they do give him a little hand here and there, so that way. But ultimately, these people are all faceless angels, and ultimately, which is a surprise. I was like, "What the heck are these creatures?" You could see from all of the promotion for this movie, those creatures being really center stage because they are probably the most unique looking things here. As if something, it doesn't seem to make sense. You've got these winged creatures that look like angels. They're all exactly the same. Now, what it is that these angels are actually people that have been transformed into this state to do exactly the same thing. It's almost like the Borg because they go through a process of transforming individuals into the hive. And so that's really kind of the surprise of this group of people. It's a wonderful surprise too. And so Matin, even after being such a terrible person, does do something heroic, but I'm not even sure if it was meant to be. This huge funnel here is what changes everybody and transforms everybody into these faceless angels. They speak of happiness because if you have individuality, you are unhappy, and if you don't have individuality, you are able to be happy. How could you tell if anybody is happy? None of them have faces, so it's very interesting, very interesting. So for the good, and I'm not sure if it was for the good, but maybe he felt like this was the best thing to do as his only option. But Matan sacrifices his life, and because he is a person that is filled with hate and evil, the creature does rejects him, and so it creates this incredible reaction where it is rendered powerless. It also uh, begins, the entire place starts falling to pieces. So the entire structure in which they are in starts to fall to pieces. And yeah, so we find out that these puppets are actually people, and they begin to transform. They are taken to the ship. And once they get on the ship, there is a vessel that wants to approach Jafar's ship. And so he gets the idea like, hey, you guys are all pirates that were captured by the faceless angels. And, if you can get on the ship and take over the ship, perhaps there's an opportunity for you guys to take over the ship. Basically, he drops these guys over on this other ship, knowing very well that they are going to take over the ship in within a few hours. And so that's kind of an interesting thing. It's a dog eat dog world in this particular movie. So I did kind of like that. I was like, wow, they're immediately right after being rescued are going to be scooped up by this ship as prisoners, but then they have to take it over in true pirate fashion. So yeah, I love that. I thought that was cool. Space pirates, we adore. The sad thing is that the little boy PL is, you know, poor thing. He just doesn't know what the heck he's doing. He's lost, kind of, and somehow he ends up being cornered by these hornets and or wasps. It looks pretty bad for him. So he gets attacked, and they partially begin to feed on him. At this point, we fade away from the story, and something else happens. The Jafar's ship goes inside of this interesting cube here. Jafar's ship is now being transported through time by a bizarre race of aliens known as the Masters of Time. And it's really weird. And they live in this structure here, which is quite interesting. So somehow they're able to explain something that happened to this planet Perditi. So Perditi itself is in sort of its own time zone, about 60 years in the past. And so everything on Perditi is from like 60 years ago. And it's like, what? So if you go to the planet, it's like you're going into that planet's past. I thought that was really inventive. Very cool. Like what? How's that possible? It was a wonderful surprise to have that. I was waiting for the Time Masters to show up and for any of this to make sense, and it came through with flying colors. Once they get to this station, this is one of the Time Masters here. He explains everything, and it's cut and dry that whatever's on Perditi, including the little boy, whatever happened there happened 60 years ago. So the thing is that we realize that. So then it's revealed that suddenly Stillbad is sick. He's not feeling well, and he's dying rather rapidly. It's not told immediately, but we discover that Stillbad is actually Piet, 60 years into the future. So here he is, like, playing instruments to himself. A nice little paradox there, and I love that surprise. Like, oh wow, whatever happened to Piet happened 60 years ago, and here he is in front of them. And it was just a great idea that and creative story that was told here. I love it, loved it, loved it. Piet actually gets rescued in the very last minute. What we do get is a montage of Silbad's memories, and this is his memory. He doesn't remember anything before being rescued. So unfortunately, he didn't remember his family. He didn't remember his mother or his father. He just remembered being captured. And so it's such a cute story when you look at it in its totality, that he was saved 60 years ago, just in a nick of time. But at the same time, they've been talking to him this whole time, and they've been talking to, um, a 60-year-old man basically, back in time. They've been talking to Piet, and they're thinking that it's at the current day. It's actually the past. Very, very interesting stuff. Very interesting. And what we have here is the burial for Silbad, which is really quite sweet. And they do mention that there's still good humanity out there, and that we should cherish it. It's really quite a nice little ending there. Oh my goodness, guys. Yeah, it was really sweet. This is one of those things where the pacing for me was really, I think the biggest problem for me with this was definitely the pacing. It was super super drawn out in certain stages of it, but there visually it's just gorgeous. There was a lot of beauty in it. The music was great too. Music was fantastic. So I loved all that. And but yes, I thought there were many areas that could have been, sort of cut out, snipped up. You kind of almost don't want to do that. You kind of almost don't want to do that because it's Mobius's designs. It's, because of the creativity there, but also there were some design flaws, or like, how can I say, animation flaws as far as getting proportions of faces correctly. I think they did very well with the bodies, but the faces, sometimes they would just like flatten out certain parts of the face. It was not symmetrical or in its right order. So there were a few eyesore moments, but also the key element here is the writing. The surprises in the story was just incredible. Subtle character developments of many of the characters, and yeah, I did like this. If I was to give this a score, I believe I would give it a 7.6. That seems like a reasonable amount, even with the flaws that it has, because of the rich idea of how they use time travel. It wasn't used in a way to get them out of something. It was already baked into the story that Silbad had knowledge of Perditi. He knew that planet, and so it came back. It came back around. They set things up and they paid it off, and I do love that so much when movies care about you paying attention and give you the satisfaction of knowing that the things that you saw and you experienced in the beginning of the film or the middle of the film matters. That you're just not like watching a whole bunch of images flash around and people say dialogue that don't matter. So that is very very important to me. And so the restoration of faith in humanity was also a wonderful side note that I took to at the end, and I was like, "Ah, there's the message." And yeah, definitely how the timekeepers or the time masters saw how the humans were sentimental and cared about their lost ones. I think that made a big difference for to hit that sentimentality in the story. So guys, I think that is all I'm going to have to say about this one. I hope that you enjoy these first time watch episodes. I've been having so much fun doing them, and I really hope I get to do more of these in the future. So definitely give me your feedback on that. And also, if you have any suggestions of more things that you think maybe I haven't seen yet, that maybe I should, do leave that in the comments. And if you've seen this, what do you think? What do you think about this movie? I mean, it is very interesting. You could walk away from this saying, "Hey, that was forgettable," or you could be, "Wow, that was the best thing since sliced bread." I think I'm somewhere in the middle, but more leaning towards like, "Yeah, this was really good." Well, I'm out of here, and I'll see you in the next video.